Welcome back to another edition of the Fourth Man Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony, and thanks again for everyone who's tuning back into the show. It's been a little time since we've jumped on the pod, but it's a long off season, and like I mentioned, kind of toward the tail end of the championship, that kind of revert back to a monthly cadence when it comes to the episodes, just so we can get kind of all the information that comes through in one orderly fashion. So this is the October edition for everyone that's tuning in, and happy Halloween. Hope everyone's been doing well out there and got a big time show. I wasn't expecting this much information this early into the off season. Let's see, we crowned a champion in August and it's only October and we just talked in September. So already have a ton of news, a ton of things trickling around the Big Three, and not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, this is a league that's continuing to grow, so we'd expect more news from a month-to-month basis. But, man, it's going to be a packed show. If you read the title of this, you know that we have a great guest on in Tri-State's Devin Ebanks on the back end, so make sure you tune into that. Or if you're not interested in the news side of thing, you're just interested here in Devin, feel free to skip ahead. But before we jump into all the news and what we're going to discuss today, make sure that you're going to follow all the pages on social media at Fourth Man Pod, 4TH Man Pod on all social media platforms. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and hit that notification bell. Been dropping a little bit more content than usual, and more is to come. It's been a little slow coming out the gates. I think that we went really hard in the summer and took a little bit of a longer break than expected. Some personal things came up. Hey, but we're back now. We're grinding, and we've been doing some things behind the scenes. It hasn't just been all a relaxing time. We've been kind of gearing up for this part in the off season. So some good things to come on both the Instagram, Twitter side of things, as well as the YouTube side of things. So make sure you subscribed and following over there. As well as for any kind of breaking news and things like that on the social media side. Also, I want to give a big shout out to Believe, as always, for just being a supporter of everything we do, letting us have a platform to talk about the Big Three in the first place. So appreciate everyone at Believe, and we'll jump into it. Like I said, we got a lot to talk about on the show. Pretty much what we're going to go over today is the Department of Justice investigating the NBA over some certain allegations prohibiting the Big Three to grow. Enemies has a new captain and head coach. And then we're going to go through the awards just a little bit and see which ones are valid and maybe who got snubbed in those awards. But let's start with maybe the biggest news, I feel like. It's not necessarily on the court, but as we all know, throughout the Big Three season, and maybe even a little bit before, Ice Cube kind of went on a podcast tour to, I guess it was titled Fuck the Gatekeepers Tour, to kind of explain what's been going on in the background when it comes to the Big Three League. Now, we all know the challenges that they face coming outside of COVID, but I think some of those challenges have been a little bit more emphasized because of some other things going on. And he had mentioned throughout this podcast tour on various different platforms that the NBA was essentially prohibiting the Big Three's growth due to a variety of different things, not letting players play in the league if they wanted to, not letting owners invest into the league, and probably most importantly for a startup in this juncture, are basically discouraging companies to sponsor the Big Three. And it came out recently, and I want to go to this article for reference, but it came out about a week ago that this is from TMZ. The U.S. Department of Justice is investigating the NBA over alleged antitrust violations targeting the Big Three. So TMZ isn't also always, in my opinion, I guess the most reliable source. But Cube did confirm this. Multiple other stakeholders within the Big Three confirmed that this is true. The Department of Justice is investigating the NBA, and basically, these are allegations. First off, these are allegations that the NBA denies, but basically what they're looking into is that they are, in fact, limiting the Big Three's growth opportunities by discouraging different members of, I guess, associated with the NBA from investing into the Big Three. And, it does kind of make sense if you think about it, because if you think about, first off, this has never been a league that's here to compete. This has always been a league that's supposed to be a complementary league. They don't overlap within the season. It's extra basketball for the hoop junkies out there that want to see competitive basketball. and maybe a different format on a big time stage. So that's never been the case, which never has made sense. Then you think about all the other NBA players and the amount of Pro-Am leagues that go on in the summer in 2023 nowadays, and how many current NBA players are competing in those leagues. Okay. And then you look to the fact that you have NBA Hall of Famers, longtime NBA vets playing in the league, and the NBA has been outright that they want to support their players not only during their time in the NBA and the brotherhood, but because it is a brotherhood, support them once their time in the NBA is over. So it always has been a little bit odd that the big and Cube obviously referenced all this on his podcast, maybe not verbatim, but he mentioned that he even said the NBA he would give them a percentage. They declined that. A percentage of the league, and that they wouldn't charge them for it. They declined that. So it always has been interesting, but I'm interested to hear how some of these investigations go on with the Department of Justice. Like I said, the NBA has denied any allegations. But you see that, I don't want to say with a little bit more freedom, but a little bit more in the movement of player empowerment within the NBA. And there are some people that are a little bit more, I guess, within the mindset that, like, hey, I'm going to do what I want regardless of what the NBA says. This isn't an indictment on my contract or anything, that they're willing to go out of their way to support leagues that they're invested in. We saw that with Jaylen Brown playing in the All-Star game. There were rumors about another NBA player playing in the All-Star game. So it's just interesting. I'm curious to see how this investigation plays out. I think the biggest thing that is really stunning to me, and why, if it does come out that the NBA has been prohibiting and stopping, people from investing into this league, the biggest thing is that this is, the first black-owned sports league. It's a black-owned business, within the sports league, and the NBA has always mentioned that they are, they always talk about supporting, black-owned businesses, et cetera. And I feel like it's more of they're willing to say some of these things, but they don't necessarily act upon these things always. So it would be very, I don't want to say astonishing if that were the case, because it has felt like that. It's like, why wouldn't this league be growing based off like what they were doing within the first few seasons and the amount of traction it gained this year with going back on tour? I don't know. I mean, obviously there could be other factors. There's a lot of money and capital you need to grow a sports league, but it would be, I guess the word I'm looking for more so is just, it would be a little bit, I don't want to say embarrassing, but it would be a little bit demoralizing that the NBA, a league, that probably most people that watch the Big Three love, because they do love basketball, is stopping another league from growing that's pretty much made up of guys that were in their league previously. So, we'll have to see how this plays out. Obviously, this only came out a week ago. I don't know how long this investigation is going to go on. I was trying to read some quotes within here, but there's nothing that is necessarily quoted. It looks like they reached out to the league for comment, and NBA spokesman Mike Bass addressed the allegations of sponsorship and TV network interference, saying those claims are not true. So, we'll see. And they also mentioned that they've been supportive of the Big Three since its inception, but we declined to invest. So, interesting that they said that, because, again, on that podcast tour, and on the podcast tour, Cube mentioned that, they've heard from other people, other parties associated with it. There's two sides to every story, that they haven't been supportive of the league. So it's kind of a he said, she said at the moment. But my gut, especially with someone like Ice Cube, who pretty much everything he turns to gold, anything he puts his mind to is impactful or is a success. My gut is that I'm going to, and maybe I'm a little biased because this is a Big Three podcast, but I'm going to assume here that there's there's a little more going on behind the scenes that we don't know, and I'm gonna probably side with Ice Cube. Like, what he wouldn't just be saying this to say this is basically what I'm saying. So we'll continue to keep you updated as we continue to hear a little bit more news. I don't know if this will be, obviously we're having episodes every month, so I don't know if this will necessarily be something that we hear about every month, but hopefully they can make some, quick discoveries within this investigation. So something to keep an eye on. That's probably been the biggest thing that came out. Probably a good thing I didn't record until literally the last day in October, because thought about it a couple times prior and wouldn't have got this information out there. And I don't think anyone would have wanted to wait to hear this if you haven't already seen it on social media. So we'll see how things play out. Moving on, big news within the actual league. Already a roster transactional move, and actually done so by our new Big 3 champions, Enemies, who I think everyone knows the writing was kind of on the wall, so we'll keep it pretty brief. But Nick Young has been promoted to head coach officially, and Jordan Crawford has been named Enemies captain heading into the 2024 season. So congratulations to both of those guys, not just on a tremendous season winning the championship, but also got new roles within the league. I think, like I said, the writing was pretty much on the wall. Nick Young was interim coach down the stretch, and I think when we saw Gilbert Arenas sitting as a spectator in DC during the playoffs, I think that's when it kind of confirmed it. But throughout the course of Nick Young's coaching tenure, there's a case to be made that he was probably one of the final 3 contenders for Coach of the Year. He lost one game as a full-time interim head coach. And I am curious to see will he be one of those player coaches? And how does that dynamic work? If you have a player coach, do you still get 5 other players on your roster? And you're also allowed to suit up as an extra sub? Like, that would be an interesting dynamic into the league. I would assume no, but we'll see how things play out. And then on the other side of things, to fill his place, because Nick Young pretty much played in 2 games. I think he played in the season opener against Trilogy, and then some of the final minutes against Aliens. But Jordan Crawford has been named the captain. So already this team was going to be sticking together, but I think Jordan was definitely the engine that made this thing go, especially early on in the season when they got off to a 1-2 start. Kind of the one getting everybody together and saying, hey, we can do this thing. We just got to take this seriously and come together as a team, probably a little bit more, and also get him the ball more. And he'll come down, make some clutch shots, and put up some big-time performances, which he did. So, congrats to Jordan. I know he's a big proponent of the Big 3. He's one that, we've talked with him on the show, and it's more of what he's bringing to the Big 3, not what the Big 3 is offering him. And what he's brought to the Big 3 is just obviously some amazing big-time performances, some very entertaining basketball, but also, too, just continuing to elevate and showcase kind of the pros of playing in the Big 3 and what the Big 3 has to offer if you do get the chance to play in this league, and why it's a league that people should be willing to play in time and time again. So we talked about that on other shows. Obviously, I won't go through that, but I'm excited for Jordan, excited for Swaggy P, and excited for this Enemies team. I think the big question is who do they go out and get, because they do have an open roster spot now. Typically, teams that win a championship, they bring back the same team as last year. Maybe minor changes here and there, but so Enemies has a chance to do that as well. I know that Jordan had talked a little bit about trying to bring Marshawn Brooks into the fold, but I don't know how that team looks, because right now you have Elijah Stewart and Isaiah Austin as your co-captains. If they return, you'll have to go get somebody within the draft, and I'm assuming that draft position won't be very good, and I'm assuming someone like Marshawn Brooks would not be available for the Enemies at the end of the first or second round. It'd probably be the end of the second round, I'd imagine, is where their pick would be, just based off the history of the league. So we'll see if we'll see who they try to maybe go after in draft. I'm sure Jordan. It seems like he's good friends with Marshawn, and it would probably just be more of a, if he gets drafted, oh well, like I'm happy for him anyways. They would probably have some backup plans, obviously, but I'm assuming that's maybe one of their number one targets. We'll see. We'll have to see. But enemies making the first moves of the season, so as the champions, kind of setting the tone there and making their moves, and it looks like they're looking to run it back. So excited to see what other moves are going to be made, and I'm interested to see if these moves will be made early in the offseason. Like I said, as a growing league, you expect to see a little bit more news and deliberate moves to kind of inch closer throughout the long offseason to ultimately try to make a playoff and win a championship. I'm sure some things are done throughout the entire offseason in the background, but hey, they kind of stamped that first transaction, and we'll see what moves are to be made next. Last thing I want to touch on, because it's been a while. I know these awards were announced a while ago, but we haven't necessarily talked about them on the show. So just want to kind of briefly touch on them before we get into the interview with Devin. And that's the different awards. And so we had multiple awards throughout are named recently. I want to say in September and maybe early October they were named. But just to go through them real quickly, we had Earl Clark winning Defensive Player of the Year for the second straight season. Had Dominique Johnson winning Fourth Man of the Year. We had Michael Beasley winning Too Hard to Guard. George Iceman Gervin winning Coach of the Year with Ghost Ballers after taking his team to the playoffs for the first time since 2017. And we had Joe Johnson winning the MVP for the third time in his career in the Big Three. We also had Mike Taylor winning his second straight Best Trash Talker of the Year award as well. So first off, I want to say congratulations to all those guys. Not an easy awards to win, obviously, in a league that's got a ton of competitive players within here. But a couple things to note here. I do feel like there were maybe a couple snubs, and I've always wondered, like, do they count the playoffs because of such a short season, or is it like any other league where it's basically just based off what you do in the regular season and the playoffs don't matter? But regardless of the playoffs not mattering, I'm very surprised to see that Jordan Crawford's name wasn't mentioned in any of these awards. I thought he would be the MVP. I thought, honestly, that he would win Too Hard to Guard as well and kind of take home similar awards to what Kevin Murphy did last year. Jordan Crawford's name was not in here at all. So I was a little bit shocked by that. I thought that there was potential that Justin Denman could win Fourth Man of the Year, but I do think Dominique Johnson is the best, or arguably the best, guy off the bench. He plays every game off the bench. He is an elite super sub. He closes games out. He hits game winners pretty much on the reg. He's their closer pretty much on this team. I think he hit 3 game winners this season, multiple last year as well. So he's a guy they go to in clutch situations. So, but I did think Justin Denman probably deserved some votes. Maybe he got some votes there as well. Thought somebody from Enemies would win Coach of the Year, but I guess it's because Nick Young kind of took over as interim and Gilbert Arenas coached the beginning of the year. That couldn't necessarily decide on who should take it, and maybe Nick just didn't have enough games. So I'm not saying that Iceman wasn't deserving of it. I'm just saying I guess my thought process here is this. An Enemies team that started 1-2 was not expecting to make the playoffs. Nobody was expecting to make the playoffs just based off past history. And for me personally, a little bit of letdown after believing in them. Thought somebody from Enemies would be within the award conversation here, but that was not the case. So let me know in the comments of this video, who do you feel like, which player or coach do you feel like was snubbed of one of these awards out here? Joe Johnson had a tremendous season. Obviously led Triplets to their second championship game in their history, and they've been in the league one of the shortest amount of times in league history. Coming into the league in 2019, but I do feel like, and Michael Beasley, there's a case being made that he could have potentially won MVP with the kind of season he had, just didn't necessarily translate over to win. So maybe that was kind of the factoring decision there. But I guess I'm just thinking here that Jordan Crawford at some point within this this award section should have been mentioned. But obviously, maybe give him a little bit of that motivation for next year. He won the championship, and now it's maybe trying to get some of those individual things. I'm sure he doesn't necessarily care about those things, but I do feel like based off a post he made where he felt the big three could have done better. I think it is kind of was probably a little bit shocking to him as well. And I know the players vote on this stuff too. And I, based off my conversations in Miami alone when I was there was a lot of people that were stunned and amazed at what Jordan was doing. So I just feel like he would have got more votes depending on when they voted. Hey, it looks like based off some of the videos they did that they knew some of the votes already. So maybe they do it at the end of the regular season because Nancy Lieberman was in London presenting an award or two. But who knows? They say the players vote. I don't know. Maybe that. I don't want to speculate on anything. I'm just saying I feel like there was a couple snubs here. Jordan Crawford being the main one. But you guys let me know what you think. Congrats again to all the guys who did win the awards. I mean, at the end of the day, Joe Johnson at the moment is kind of going down as like that first, kind of going down as the GOAT right now, the big three until anyone says otherwise. But still only that one championship. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Three MVPs is hard to beat, though. He's had an incredible run within the big three. Excited to see what Triplets does next year with this team. Kind of established and figured out now that they've had a full season together and made it all the way to the championship. So we will see. But that is all the news to go through from September and October. Obviously, there's a lot of guys playing in respective leagues overseas. Maybe some guys playing in the G League. We got a couple guys coaching in the NBA. So hopefully all their seasons are going well. If anything of significance pops up, obviously I will try to get that up, get to that as much as I can. But I am trying to really center as much content as I can off this past season in the Big Three and some things in the future. But as we get, kind of later in the off season where we're kind of in the middle of we're 3 or 4 months past the season being over and 3 or 4 months from the new season getting started, there might be a little bit of a lull where I can highlight some of those guys. So that's the goal. Hope those guys their seasons are going well in the early parts of their 2023, 2024 season. But as far as the news from the Big Three, that's all we got for this month. So appreciate everyone who's tuning in. Again, if you're not already, make sure you're following at Fourth Man Pod on Instagram, Twitter, all other social media platforms. That is where you'll get any kind of updates, breaking news, player transactions, and ultimately some content that we're about to drop here soon. So make sure you're following over there. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. There will be a couple exclusive things coming on YouTube. I'm trying to dive into the short section a little bit more, so it might be a little bit more exclusive to that. Make sure you're subscribed over there so you know when that stuff drops. And again, just want to give a big shout out to Believe, as always, for supporting the show. Without further ado, I appreciate everyone who's tuning in, and let's get to our interview with Tri-State's Devin Ebanks. Today we have our first off-season interview of the season, and we're welcoming on Big Three rookie and Tri-State wing, Devin Ebanks. Thanks again for coming on, and welcome to the show.
No, of course, bro. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate being here.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. It was a joy to watch you in your first season with Tri-State, but I kind of want to take it back leading up to the journey of playing in the Big Three this summer. Let's kind of start with the now and the past, because you're back in Saudi Arabia with Al Ahly. You just won a championship with them. You've won a couple of back-to-back championships in your 2 previous overseas stints. Kind of curious just around what made you want to go back and rejoin Al Ahly to hopefully, capture another title for them.
For me, it was pretty simple to come back here. They they almost held me hostage in a sense last year with my money and my flights, because they wanted me to re-sign. They didn't want me to hit the market this year. So, but I love these guys. They take care of me here. They take care of all my needs. When my family wants to visit, it's no problem. I get as many tickets for them as I want. So that was, that's something great on my end. And yeah, as you said, this is my back-to-back championships. I won previously in Bahrain, and I won in Saudi last year. So I've made my niche here in the Middle East. As you can see, they're throwing millions of dollars at people around here nowadays for soccer, and basketball is slowly but surely growing to that as well. We actually got a really good talent now in Saudi this year. Actually, Kevin Murphy just signed to my rival club. We stay in the same hotel too, actually. So the talent is coming out here to the Middle East, and I think the world is getting put on notice.
Yeah, you and Murph might be the two biggest imports over there by the end of y'all's career. I mean, I know Murph has played in a few places over there.
He briefly spoke to me while we was in BIG3 before he got injured, asking me how I liked it here, and then maybe about 2 weeks ago, he texted me asking about the team that he signed to now. I told him go ahead because I just want better competition out here. He's been in the Middle East as well for a while, so he knows how it is in the Middle East. He just won a championship in Lebanon, so I just want good players to come out to the Middle East as much as they can. So to grow the basketball and to expand everything, and the money's not bad here too either. So it's a good stop over here.
Yeah, for sure. You're also the reigning import player of the year, but let me ask you, I mean, I'm sure it helps too when you got more competition over there just to kind of solidify, that status as the reigning import player of the year. But I want to ask you about life off the court as well. I think we do hear a lot about the money being thrown around. We do hear about the soccer culture being really strong over there. What's it like as just a pro basketball player living over there in Saudi Arabia, off the court?
Right. No, to be honest, if we're just going to talk about basketball in a sense, I feel like they're taking huge strides as far as bringing the talent here. Like LeBron was just here maybe 4 weeks ago holding a clinic here. So it's kind of taking basketball more seriously here from my previous years being in the Middle East. I first came here in 2016, so back then I was playing in Dubai. It wasn't really no culture here. You don't have fans in the game. Even now, it won't be as many fans, but the fact that we won here in my city in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, the fans around the city, they're excited. My Instagram goes off every day here with these fans. So, it's just a good feeling, especially with my club last year. We won all 3 championships here in Saudi. We have to play for 3 cups. So we won all 3 last year, and that was the first time they ever even won a championship, let alone 3. So I just, took advantage of the opportunity I had. Great teammates, great organization and coach. DeAndre Liggins is my second import.
Okay, nice.
So, we have a good chemistry. He came back with me as well, and be ready to do it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a solid squad. DeAndre's nice, and going back to the fan base, I think that, like you said, will definitely expand and grow. I was noticing I was following Dominique Johnson from Killer Threes, his journey a little bit last year. I think he's playing for Al Ittihad, or I might have mispronounced that.
Yeah.
But I could just tell, like, him just being on that team and them kind of making their strides and runs. Like, he had a ton of following, just following his journey over there, not only here in the stateside but over in Saudi Arabia. So I feel like sports is a growing culture over there for sure. I want to take it back just a few more years. I know you mentioned 2016 was your first time going to Saudi Arabia, but you played in the NBA previous to that. You spent 4 years with the Lakers, 2010 to 2013. Got a chance to play with Kobe Bryant. Had some success over in the NBA as well. But wondering if you have any good Kobe stories or any memories that still stick with you today here in your basketball career.
Well, this is always one story I always go back to. It's pretty simple, but it was something that stuck with me. It was just like a random road trip. Can't really remember where we were at. Oh, Houston. I'm sorry. We were in Houston. And Kobe asks me to stay after. We have a light shoot around. We got the game the day of. We have a light shoot around. I get my work in, and Earl Clark is on the team as well at this time. So usually me and Earl over there shooting and talking crap to each other. Then he asked me to stay. He's like, "Oh, just stay behind. I just want I want to rap with you a little bit." Well, he didn't want to rap with me a little bit. He wanted me to sit there and watch him work out for 20 minutes. And I'm sitting there, I'm not really realizing why he asked me to sit here, because he never did that to me. This is my third year, by the way. So once he finished working out, he comes to me. He's like, "Why do you think I asked you to stay here?" I'm like, "To be honest, Cole, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not even playing this game. I'm just coming to get my work. I know I'm just whatever the case may be." So he asks me like, "Well, what did you get from me wanting to stay here at the end of the practice?" I said, "You Cole, you gonna stay here at the end of the practice? You gonna come in the morning? Like, it's normal. Like all the stories we hear." He's like, "Good. I'm glad you paid attention to that because I seen you walking out the gym the previous 2 cities and I ain't getting no extra shots and nothing up." And he said he wanted me to sit there and watch him work out just to know how important it was to get your extra work in. And that the fact that he wanted to be there, he didn't have a coach approach him to get extra work or anything of the sort. D Ham was my guy at the time, who's the Lakers coach right now. He was there working out with Kobe. And basically they was basically grilling into me that day, like, "Look, nobody should be asking you to get no work in. You the maybe the third string small forward on this team. Like, nobody should be asking you to work out." But I feel like they said that to me knowing that I had the potential to be great or to be good at least, right? So like, that's one of the stories that it sticks with me, even to this day. RP Cole, that's my guy. I got a tattoo of my man. It's like, he was one of my good friends and definitely a mentor from 2010 to 13 for sure. So that's one of the stories I always think. Like I said, it was so simple, but it was like, it really just stuck with me, and that's pretty much took me on and carried me to my career and where I'm at now.
Yeah, and rest in peace to Kobe for sure. But I think the bigger, I guess, like the takeaway I have from that is that like everything you hear is true, but like just the type of mentor he wasn't just to like a couple specific people. It was to anybody he could lend a helping hand to. He was trying to provide guidance. And so for you, it was like, you know, hold me accountable, hold others accountable, but hold yourself accountable first. And so just another dope life lesson to hear from Kobe Bryant. And again, rest in peace. That's cool. I'm sure that sticks with you as you're at the end of practices. You're making sure you get
Every
some
day,
shots up.
like ever since then, I've been, to be honest, like I really wasn't no workhorse even back then. But that once he did that, that kind of like got me in gear, bro. Like I put in my hours, or crazy enough, as we speak right now, I got my trainer that I train with in Atlanta. I just got him a job here, so he's about to land in like 2 hours.
That's what's
So
up.
he definitely finna be getting back
Yeah.
to it after practice and all that too. So but that's just a little sprinkle of my, with my stories and my what I experienced with Cole. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's what they always talk about, being in the right situation as well, being around the right people. For you, I think that's obviously you've mentioned that's kind of huge to where you're at right now. So that's dope. Last thing, and then I mean, this is kind of related to the big three, but last thing, and then we'll get into kind of how the big three journey came about and just your experience in year one. But there's been a lot of conversation on this topic of discussion. I think Jeff Teague's podcast started it. I'm not sure if that's the main source, but there was a question posed around, and you might have heard this: 50 mil and a chip, or 100 million just straight up without any championship. And the reason I bring it up is because there's a couple coaches in the big three that have both had their own takes on it. We saw Gil kind of mocking the idea about it. He said he's taking the 100 mil, no questions asked. And then we saw Steven Jackson, who had a different perspective, said, if you came from the land of poverty, you would understand that 50 mil is enough and you want to be known as a winner and get that championship. For you as a player, I wanted to get your perspective on which side you kind of lean towards and the reason behind it.
For me, I kind of stand with Stack on this one. I mean, I feel like he's he's right in the terms of like, you come from nothing, 1 million is enough for you. I feel like, you know what I'm saying? So the fact that you can make 50 and still have a chance to go win a ring or have a ring, I would definitely take that, because I've had the joy of winning. Stack had the joy of being around winning. Championships. Like, so it's different for Gil in the sense of what he was thinking, right? Like signed for big contracts in the NBA. He was a killer, right? Like, we never taken that away, but I understand where Stat coming from, though. I think that resonates more with me. I'm playing for free at the end of the day. Like, it don't matter what age it is, I'm playing for free. You don't got to put no money down. But to win is this, when we talk about it and when we old men and put the ball down, like, we only remember who won. We don't remember who had 60. We remember who made 300 million in the league. Like, we all making money, right? So at the end of the day, we're not counting the money that much. It just depends who you are in that situation and what it means to you. That's what I feel like it differentiates for certain people, yeah. But for me, give me the 50 million ring. That's me.
Yeah, so I think that's the same for me too. It's about legacy. For me, at some point, that's just my, but you make a good point about perspective, because the interesting thing is too, is that Adrian James, who's the old Indianapolis Colts running back, was on Jeff Teague's podcast. And he talked about it in the sense of like, well, also if you grow up from nothing, like you want to continue to stack and stack and stack and continue to build on what you have. So it is all about perspective. That's
and come on, man. Let's not like act like 50 million you can't invest with 50
right.
million.
I mean, that's what I'm saying though. Like even from like a middle class family, like $1 million's a lot of money, right? So like you don't just need to be in a poverty situation. You just need to be in a situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck. Like $1 million would go a long way.
I feel like that kind of conversation, this conversation is more pertaining to your lifestyle, pertaining to the individual and their lifestyle. That's all, because it's not the same for everybody, right? Like Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, all these dudes who's 200 million in, they don't care about money.
Yeah.
Right? They're chasing legacy, rings, Hall of Fame, status. That's what they're chasing now. Ask a second year guy on a second round contract this question. Yeah, he wants the 100 million. Hello, like, come on. So as I said, these debates, they're fun. Sometimes, don't get me wrong, I'm always in the comments. You can probably catch me. I'm the one always saying something. I like to troll. That's a guilty pleasure of mine. But at the end of the day, I'm in tune with reality. You know what I'm saying? Like, every other day, I mean, any person in their situation, maybe they need the 100 million, maybe they don't. So, you know, nobody's wrong, nobody's right to me.
Yeah, no, I feel that too. It's just funny to me too that it's like the people that have seen $1 million are the people having this conversation and talking about it. Like, not to say your perspective doesn't matter.
Millionaires having this conversation, by the way.
Right. Like, would you want another 50 mil on top of what you already have today, or would you want another 100 mil on what you already have today? No, it's just funny. It's all about perspective, though. That's a good point, and situation and what you prefer. But I don't know. I kind of like also too, not to say that I would agree with what Gil's saying about taking the 100 mil, but I like his stance on everything just because he's got a good joy about it, you know?
Gil, at the end of the day, he's found his niche, his second niche in life, and it's basically trolling. And I'm here for it, bro. Like, I love, like, the first time I even encountered Gil was in the BIG3. It was my second trip. And funny enough, you seen that he basically left the team, right? Like, he wasn't coaching, Nick was coaching. The second trip, he acting like, man, we ain't even gonna make it past 4 or 5 games. We gonna get cut. Like, and look, enemies went to the championship. So like,
that's nuts.
You know, Gil really just be trolling. It's for clickbait, entertainment. I mean, he has a voice. He killed in the league, so people gonna listen to him. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
we just gotta respect his hustle at the end of the day.
Facts for sure. Let's talk about your BIG3 opportunity. I'm not sure if this was your first time that the idea was presented to you. I feel like most people I talk to, it's not their first time presented. They've been asked 2 or 3 times and they're like, fine. But for you, what was your experience in getting this opportunity? How did it come about? And why'd you say yes this year?
Mine was a roller coaster, to be honest. I got approached way back, like what, I want to say 2019, 18, a couple years ago. And then it just never really came to fruition. And then last year, well, not last year, the year before, I actually did put my name in the draft and everything. Due to me winning the championship in Bahrain, I couldn't get to the tryout and everything. And I was texting a few guys I knew that played. He said, "Oh, you don't gotta try out. Somebody will pick you up." So I didn't get to the try. Watched the draft. I literally got home and watched that draft that year, and I was like, man, I ain't get picked up. I was like, cool, whatever it is, what it is. And then, it kind of stung a little bit. As a player, you just feel like, yeah, you should be there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, especially three, as far as like, it's former NBA and, the talent wise. And, for me as a player, I know I fit the mold of this league. So,
yeah.
But no, this year, totally unexpected. I'm coming back from Saudi.
Another ring on your finger.
Championships. Yeah. Hey, I'm not worried about nothing. Didn't put my name in the draft. Didn't ask about the big 3. Nothing. I'm planning to be in a different country every other month. Then I get back my first day. Literally on my phone, I see Devin Ebanks 7th pick to Tri-State. I'm like, what?
Wait, you didn't put your name in?
I didn't put my name in. I didn't put nothing in. I didn't. And T. Scott is my guy. Like, I know T. Scott since like my first year with the Lakers. He used to run a little hoop session back in the day in the summer. And T. Scott was the one who hit me the previous year about Big3. Like, bro, you need to put your name in, come to try out something. So I'm like, whatever, bro, go ahead. I know you running it, so put my name in. And I didn't get picked up. So this year I was just like, whatever. I didn't even care. Like I said, I just had one. I was doing my thing. I'm signed already. As soon as I touch back, I'm good. Like, I was ready to have a good family vacation, me, my wife, and my daughter. But boom, Big3 comes about. And to be honest, like, I'm happy that it happened. Like, I'm very blessed and grateful that Coach Irvin, Julius Irvin, Mr. Irvin, my cap, Jason Rich and Justin Detman, they felt that I was a good fit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely grateful to all 3 of those guys. They was kind of the pillars behind me being there and, being able to participate this year.
Yeah. Now that you're bringing that conversation up, I think it was JD who told me he might have slipped your name. I could be wrong. I can go back on a few episodes from earlier in the year, but I have to, I'm like remembering this conversation I had with JD where he's like, yeah, I slipped his name in last minute, pick him up. But I might have to go back on that. I want to talk for JD.
Right. No. To be honest, I really do think JD was really the front runner on this. Joining their team, especially him and Deshaun Stevens. They're tight.
Yeah,
Deshaun's boy. I've been knowing Deshaun for a while. So once he seen, I didn't even know. I thought he was still on the Aliens, and I didn't even know he was in Tri-State. He hit me up like, my wife told me you want Tri-State and welcome, and I'm with them. And I was like, man, it's just funny how God works sometimes. Like,
yeah, for sure. No, I feel like JD's definitely that behind the scenes guy.
Yeah.
He's definitely doing all the GM work over there. So he does a good job.
JD's gonna be somebody's coach at GM someday. Trust me, book that one.
Yeah, we'll stamp that one for sure.
Man's always on top of everything.
Yeah. And y'all had a really solid team, honestly. Like the way this was constructed, we're talking championship aspirations from the entire Big3 community and everybody who was a part of the league. Not an easy way to ask this. Obviously, you got us get off to a good start. Things kind of snowball into obviously what you guys weren't expecting. Just from my perspective, it seems like it wasn't necessarily a cohesion thing. It was just like which lineups worked the best at certain situations. For you, what do you feel like kind of led to the mid-season slump and then ultimately made it tough? I mean, because you made it through the 8-game schedule. It's just kind of the mid-season slump that messed you up. Yeah.
For me, it was pretty simple. I feel like we just didn't have the cohesiveness, the chemistry that we needed, right? Like, we're adding 2 new guys, Ray, JD, right? They, Rich, they've been together, but at the same time, I feel like when we won those 2 games, just like anything, we kind of drop our edge a little bit. We was feeling ourselves a little bit. And boom, we run into triplets in New York, back home, where I'm from. So, and that kind of is what snowballed it a little bit. But as you said, it was more of a lineup thing, kind of trying to gel me and Deshaun into Rich and JD. You know, as you've seen towards the end of the season, I started coming off the bench because Coach Irvin, you know, he felt like he wanted me to be the offensive punch coming off the bench, right? So, you know, I was fine with whatever role they wanted me to be. To be honest, I didn't even expect to start game one. I was like, I want to, you know, I'm just here to try to help y'all. You know what I'm saying? That was my first experience. I don't really know how it goes. For me, I feel like we underachieved given our talent, given our size. We had size, and you know what we can all contribute to each other. I feel like, but with all that said, I feel like our main thing was this: we didn't have enough time together, or you know, didn't play together. So I feel like if next year, God willing, we can keep the same kind of squad, I feel like we are going to be a force to reckon with for sure. With a healthy Jay Rich too, he had his ankle
bum
was
ankle.
bum ankle for at least 3-4 games towards the end of that. So one of the games we lost, Aliens, he wasn't even there, right? So
Yeah.
you know,
And they were kind of in a moment where it was like,
obviously every team has their what ifs, and
if
I was, you know, so. But for me, I feel like, yeah, we definitely underachieved as a team. I think that's the mutual feeling. We all had big expectations. The league had big expectations of us. So I think if we can have the same team next year, I think it'll be a different story for sure.
Yeah. You bring up a couple of good points. One with in terms of how you guys were trying to fit together. Like you're talking about bringing in Deshaun, who had a completely different role with Aliens. He's an all-star. He's kind of carrying that team to their first playoff, the opportunity in a sense, you know. And two, you bring up time because a lot of people, there's a lot of, I don't want to call it complaints necessarily, but there's definitely a lot of gripe around people who bring politics into play. And that's going to be a part of any sports league, but especially here, like, you know, there's a reason why that's there because there isn't a lot of time. You need to have almost like chemistry coming in to make sure that you guys get off to a good start that you need. For you guys, getting off to a 2-0 start might have helped you and saved your season to get all the way to the 8-game start. Whereas other teams fighting from an 0-2 hold don't necessarily have that chance. So, you know, I think you bring up a good point in the sense that like time is limited within this league in terms of just practicing together, getting the schedule together. I mean, not everyone is going to be willing to stay in one city like Power did.
In my opinion, not to cut you off, in my opinion, I feel like I was kind of like the black horse in this situation because they already knew Deshaun, Rich, Jay Rich and JD already played together. Ray played together all.
That's true. Yeah.
And then I was kind of like, you know, that what if the question mark, like, yeah, we know what he can do, right? Like, but I never been in the BIG3. It's a different game. You know, to be honest, it's a lot more strenuous than I anticipated. We're gonna just, you know, 3-on-3, but there's no clock. You know, like, guys is coming at you full throttle, very physical, no calls. Like, so, you know, for me, it was definitely a learning experience. And, you know, I feel like I got off to a good start in the beginning. And then,
definitely,
you know, obviously we went through the slump and it was very up and down from there. So, for me, like I said, if I do get the opportunity to play again and be in this league, I got a taste of it. And now I see my mistakes. I watched, you know, tape. I'm that kind of person. I want to watch all the games after and stuff like that. So, you know, I see, you know, little things we can, you know, fix. But like you said, we have big aspirations in the beginning of the season this year, and we just didn't meet that. But I feel like now that we got that season under us, if we can get this same team back, trust me, we'll be for sure at least top 3 teams next year. I'm ready to book that, to be honest.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, definitely. And I think definitely you made your case too to be able to do that. Like, you know, I've asked some people, is this the most talented league you've ever been a part of? And people say, like, I don't know about necessarily talented. There's been a lot of talented leagues, but competitive, like people willing to come in and really want that chip, like for sure. So,
oh no, you gotta be ready to play every Saturday or Sunday. Ready. It ain't. You can't just be out there thinking it's sweet, man. Like, you got real professionals out there every night. You know what I'm saying? Even the Aliens, right? We lost to them. Like, you gotta be ready to play every night. No nights off in this Big 3. That's for sure. So like I said, I'm happy to get back to it. Hopefully I get back in this thing next year, and and we take it from there.
Yeah, we'll see if they expand. They've talked about maybe a possible expansion with a couple teams. So I mean, I think
Yeah, I
it's
heard. And then you
well
see,
deserved.
I was out here in Bahrain a few days ago.
Oh, nice. Okay, just kind of scouting a little bit, doing a tour.
I don't know if he's scouting or doing some promotion for
business or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he was out here in Bahrain a few days ago. I had posted it on my page. He was out in Bahrain. What I posted, it said something in terms of the Big 3.
Okay. Him as a CEO has made a lot of strides for this league. Like him just putting himself in that position has, I feel like, made a lot of strides for this league. So I'm interested. He's trying to grow this thing international. Let me ask you about playing just with under Dr. J, alongside Jay Rich, who, I mean, like what he's doing is just unbelievable, especially at his age. Let me just like, what was that experience like? I mean, we talk about Dr. J as like a legend, and then he's your coach, the next day.
There ain't much I could say about Dr. J. I mean, he speaks for himself, to be honest. That was my first time even being around him. And to be honest, he's just a real cool, collected kind of guy, man. He doesn't really, even on the coaching side of things, he's more encouraging, more confidence boosting than, yelling, shouting like some coaches would. I wouldn't say any names, but there's a few Big 3 coaches. That's a little louder than him. But no, man, Dr. J, for me, I was more being a fan, being around him, to be honest. He wasn't even my coach, for real. I was just in awe that I was even around him, to be honest. I had a bunch of family, my grandma and auntie, stuff like that. Like, wow. You know what I'm saying? So it was more like just fan, just appreciating to be around him type of thing for me, more than the X's and O's. But, regardless, right, I respect everything he says, anything he told me, it was times he pulled me onto the side, like, be more aggressive, look to score, things like that. And of course, coming from him, that just gives you a little extra battery in your back. So,
yeah.
I said, I was just grateful for the whole experience this whole summer.
Man, that's dope. Yeah, he seems super chill. There's a couple of times where it's like sitting in like those NFT ownership sections or whatever, just got a pass from somebody. And he would just walk up casually like he was just an average person, which, he is just a person at the end of the day, but like he was just super casual about it. Just chill.
To be honest, sometimes you kind of forget that he is Dr. J. I actually had a moment alone with him in Memphis. We had to share a car together on the way to the hotel. It was just me and him, 20 minutes, just talking like normal people. Like, I just forgot he was Dr. J for a minute. You know what I'm saying? So it was one of them things like, I appreciate the genuine person out of him, at the end of the day. So it didn't have to do with basketball or nothing like that.
I feel like you get a lot of good guidance and advice from him, maybe similar to the way Kobe would also give you some advice like that. So
I'm one person, if you ask about me, I'm listening to my OGs. That's just it. But any OG talking to me, I'm listening. I don't got much to say. I'm just soaking the game up. So that's just me. I respect my elders. Respect who did it before me, 10 times better than me. So, that's all I really say on that.
I feel that. Reflecting back on this past season, just from a league perspective, which team do you feel like surprised you the most just outside of, Tri-State?
Obviously, I feel like everybody's going to say enemies. You ask anybody that, right? Like, just being around the league, I feel like anybody watching the league throughout the summer would say, like, yeah, they have talent, obviously. Nobody's like, a for sure win in this league. But in the same breath, it was kind of like people didn't take them seriously. And my guy Jordan Crawford definitely put the Big 3 on notice this year, which he got snubbed, by the way, but that's another conversation. But Yeah, man. I feel like Enemies probably was one of those surprising teams this year that, they put the whole league on notice that they're not here to play games. They definitely got a good group, size, with Quincy and Isaiah, and then you got a killer with JC out there. You know what I'm saying? And then Stewart, he could kind of do everything. So, and then you got Nick. He didn't play that much, but just hearing his voice, right? Like in the games in the arena, you hear his voice. He's annoying. So like they put it together. You know what I'm saying? And them boys hooped this year for sure, and they deserved everything they got.
Yeah, that was definitely a run that was a little unexpected, but I think JC definitely maybe instilled a little, I don't want to say pressure, but definitely a little bit of like, hey, let's like seriousness, and then
JC is a dog, man. Listen, I had committed to Indiana University. A lot of people don't know that. I was supposed to replace Eric Gordon. JC was still there. JC was a dog back then, very serious back then. It wasn't no, this ain't nothing new. You know JC, he's very serious about his craft. Like, so it wasn't nothing new to me. Once I see him going on that tear when they played against us, in the next game, in the championship, I'm like, these boys gonna win, bro, because he not playing.
would you say he's the toughest guard in the league this year? Is there someone else that sticks out to you?
I would give that to Mike Beasley.
Okay. He's a dog too. He's a killer.
I mean, obviously Jay-Z killed. Like I said, he got snubbed. I feel like he should have won MVP for sure.
I would have seconded that for sure.
That was my vote. I'll say it. But nah, I mean, hardest to guard obviously is Bees, bro. He's a lefty, could do everything. What? I didn't even play against Bees this year, but I'm just watching some of the games. Obviously, I know him, so I'm just like, definitely the hardest to guard still.
Okay. Just had to confirm that there. Anybody outside of yourself, obviously, want to see you back in the league. Anybody you'd like to see play in the Big Three next year that hasn't played in the league yet that you think would fit really well?
I've been getting on my teammate, DeAndre Liggins. I think he'd be a great fit in the Big Three.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's not all offense with him. He plays D.
Mm-hmm.
He's rebounding. He's going to get you dimes. He's a team guy. I feel like he would be caught. The Big Three, the defensive level is like, I would say middle range, right? Like, but I feel like if you add a person like him, like Liggins, he gonna be up in some of these guards, pressuring them, turning them over. So he will add a different dynamic to the Big Three on the defensive end. Like my guy Earl Clark, he's defensive player twice of the year. Now I was joking with Earl. I was with Earl all the cities pretty much. I'm like, man, when you started strapping up like this, but he been strapping. I ain't gonna lie, my guy got his defense up crazy. But that's what I was telling Legs when I got him. Like, I feel like the Big Three would be a good thing for you, bro. Like, especially he's at that that guard spot where he can face a lot of good guards, and it'd be a good matchup. I would love to see him and JC going at it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just a good offensive guy, right? So, he would have a lot of matchups that I think a lot of people would like to see.
I would like to see that balance a little more too, because there are, like you said, you can't really be a specialist in this league, right? Like there's not a lot of roster spots for that.
Right, exactly.
But like what you're describing is like someone that's like 5 of the 6 things like he does really well. Like would definitely be a good fit in there, and like to see some of those good like isolation, like we get a ton of ISO situations, so to see a lot of those good.
Fire, right? Like
yeah.
I got my money on Legs winning that battle any day against anybody. He's not letting nobody score.
Especially with the calls that they don't give, in this league, like just as physical as it is, like that'd be nice. Look out for DeAndre Liggins. Just keep that in the back of my head. Last thing I want to ask you here is just like kind of your overall thoughts on the league. After playing in your first year, had some time to reflect, maybe even off the court, getting to hang with a lot of the guys you're mentioning. You've been teammates with, known for a long time. So just overall thoughts on your first year in the league.
To be honest, me and my wife, we always do like a little debrief before I go back overseas, and I always tell her like, look, this is probably the best summer I had in 10 years. BIG3 being a big part of it, just getting to be around old guys I haven't seen and however long since the NBA, and to be honest, take the basketball aside of it, it was more just like the brotherhood, just bumping into dudes in the lobby and in the elevator in the gym, wrapping up, making jokes and stuff like that. So for me, it was a great experience that I want to continue. I hope I can make it a part of my summers now. For me, it made me busy in the summer. I have something to do, something to look forward to. It's better just working out and training and playing meaningless open runs all summer.
Mm-hmm.
You still have a little competitive edge during the summer, and that more so, I was just grateful for the brotherhood of the whole thing, to be honest.
Man, that's dope to hear. And get to spend time with your family in the meantime. Yeah. So that's dope to hear. And like you said, hopefully get to see you in the league next year. I'd like to see a lot of the same teams like kind of like stick together as a core. I know it doesn't always happen because of the way the league is set up, but it'd be good to see you back with Tri-State. But I want to just congratulate you on your first year. Best of luck in Saudi Arabia. Thanks for taking the time to come on.
Of course, man. I appreciate you for having me, and I know we was a long time coming with this, but no time like the present, right? Appreciate you.
Yeah, facts. Appreciate it.
All right, that was our interview with Tri-State's Devin Ebanks. Just want to say a big thank you to him for taking the time. He's starting the season, or recently started the season in Saudi Arabia, and we had that conversation a few weeks back. But he was kind enough to take the time, during the start of his season, where I'm sure a lot of things are busy with the time difference and everything. So I appreciate it. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm looking forward to seeing Devin back in the BIG3 next year, whether it's with Tri-State or not. I think he started figuring out things down the stretch, and I think based off what he showed this year, he's definitely going to be a guy that can contribute for a team, whether it's Tri-State or not. So best of luck in your season in Saudi Arabia, Devin, and appreciate you and appreciate everyone who tuned into this episode and to the interview. Again, just want to continue the heart. Make sure you're following the show on social media. This is where you're going to find the most information, the most content throughout the off season. Going to try to do as many interviews as possible, obviously. But in terms of just day-to-day content, which I've been slacking on a little bit, but day-to-day content that is to come, social media is your best bet for any BIG3 content if you're investing in the league like me and some of the other people in the community. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, and that'll do it for this episode. This is pretty much the October edition. Again, happy Halloween to everybody. Hope everyone has a good night, and we'll see you guys next time.